Welcome to the channel, everyone. Today, we're wrapping up coverage on the second G.I. Joe miniseries from Skybound. The fifth and final issue of Cobra Commander has arrived, and it makes for a gratifying conclusion to my second favorite title in the Energon Universe. This is a fun one. It feels like the ending of a miniseries, as you would expect, but it also feels like an extension of some of the threads from the Duke miniseries, interestingly enough, and of course, it's laying the groundwork for things to come. I speculated that by the time of Duke number 5, Cobra Commander and Destro were still not working together, seeing as how Destro's technicians warned of insufficient power for the various Mars Industries gadgets Destro had been cooking up, something that's confirmed with Cobra Commander number 5, as this issue is most definitely set after the events of Duke number 5. However, there's a time jump of an indeterminate amount of time between the 4th and 5th issues of this series, which means the first 4 issues may be set much earlier in the continuity than I originally thought. While we don't know for certain how much time has passed between issue 4 and 5, it's safe to say Cobra Commander wasn't just twiddling his thumbs. Not by a long shot. Since we last saw him, the Commander has, in every way that seems to matter, established the Cobra organization, gathering an assortment of mercenaries, looting various Mars sites to steal Destro's tech, including a bunch of bats, even building up his own idyllic little town as a facade to cover up his secret Energon projects under the surface. Though not explicitly named, this town is most likely Springfield, a front for Cobra that's been a staple of G.I. Joe fiction since the early days. There are a number of other classic G.I. Joe nods in this issue, like Ripper mentioning grape soda and chocolate donuts, the preferred combo meal of the Dreadnoks, or during the ambush of Destro's forces, Cobra attacks them with blue lasers, a callback to the red and blue lasers from the original cartoon. And, of course, when Cobra Commander shows himself in this issue, he's wearing an even more faithful recreation of his old snake getup from the Season 3 Transformers episode Only Human, making the version of these threads seen in previous issues a more distinct iteration on the design. Cobra Commander also refers to himself as a salesman in this issue, a reference to his origin story in the Marvel Comics as a used car salesman, though I think this is just a winking nod to the past while establishing the character's new role as an Energon Baron. Speaking of, let's dig into that a little. The original Cobra organization gathered money through various pyramid schemes, something that seems like it may continue over here. We can glean from the dialogue that the Commander is making his money and recruiting new members to his organization thanks to Energon. So maybe it's not purely a pyramid scheme, but I guess it depends on how much Cobra Commander actually shares his resources with the people he brings into the fold. I don't know, maybe I don't fully understand pyramid schemes either, to be fair, which is possible. Cobra always felt like a mixture of different things to me, like a terrorist organization, cult, and sleazy business all rolled into one, and that really comes through in this issue, so it's hitting a lot of familiar and expected notes, but doing so in a way that still feels distinct and fresh. The main thrust of this issue is bringing Destro into Cobra. This panel with Destro and Mercer whispering amongst themselves as they follow the Commander into the assembly room really gives off cult vibes to me. There's a general sense of unease that pervades the entire sequence in Springfield, and that's down to how much of a hold Cobra Commander has on everyone around him. Like his reptilian namesake, he's coiled so tightly around several nefarious elements of society that it feels like there's no choice but to go along with his whims and no option for escape. Ripper realizes this, so even when presented with the option of leaving, he chooses to stay with Cobra out of fear for his life. But even staying has its own risks, as the Commander demonstrates by using his Energon-powered bats to execute several of his men, all as part of a sales pitch to Destro. Would not want to work for that guy. Another great example of Cobra being an unsettling organization run on fear comes in the form of the Doctor from issue number 4, who is here identified as Laszlo Vandermeer. the scientist from the cartoon whose research Cobra used to create the mass device. It's hard not to feel like they're really building up to something with the mass device, right? They've teased it so much. Gotta have something up their sleeves. Anyway, the last time we saw Vandermeer, he was looking pretty shaggy and begging to be rescued from his imprisonment underneath the Dreadnought's base. Under Cobra Commander's employment, however, there's an interesting inversion. Vandermeer is apparently allowed regular grooming and generally appears to be treated with more respect and given more resources. But as you might expect from this version of Cobra, this is all facade, as Vandermeer's mood has gone from please save me to please kill me, something that he literally whispers to Mercer when they first meet. And I think that really just highlights how much worse Cobra Commander is than the Dreadnoks. It seems like the Doctor is expected to maintain appearances of being a loyal member of the cause, but secretly yearns for the sweet release of death. I'd say that tells us quite a bit about what it means to be a member of Cobra. So when Destro and Mercer follow Cobra Commander into that auditorium, it feels like they're being drawn into a situation that will be difficult, if not impossible, to extricate themselves from. I think it's really cool how the creative team handled this. It's like the situation in issue 3 with Cobra Commander taking control when he was being tortured by the Dreadnoks, just amplified to a whole other level where the commander has even more control and power. I think this has a lot of potential for some interesting conflicts and drama within Cobra, where we might see these big personalities struggling to reclaim the autonomy and control that it seems like they have to surrender to Cobra as part of their induction. Cobra Commander has such an ominous presence whenever he's in the book. This is something the series has done really well. I've said before, and I'm going to say it again, but Cobra Commander is the most interesting and compelling antagonist in the Energon universe so far, and I feel like he's truly risen to a position of tremendous power and influence in this issue, which is highlighted perfectly when the Bat with the Rocket Pack descends down to offer up a wardrobe change, giving us this badass image of Cobra Commander in his classic regalia, with the helmet essentially being something of a crown. Recruiting Destro into the organization serves as something of a primer for the audience to see what the commander has accomplished since his official defection from cobra-la at the end of the 4th chapter. And you know, this issue is pretty light on action. It's mostly a bunch of characters just talking, which is maybe not going to be what everybody's looking for in a G.I. Joe comic, but personally, I think they nailed it. This was a stellar way to end this miniseries, and it feels like a satisfying end all on its own, which is a little different than how I felt about Duke. Still liked it, mind you, but I feel like it really took the epilogue from the 2024 special one-shot to make that feel like a better ending to that particular miniseries. But it's not all about endings with this issue. This issue very much serves to hype what's coming next. Rise of Cobra mostly, but there's also a tease for Storm Shadow and some interesting twists with Cobra-la, with Globulus learning the info that Cobra Commander kept secret about Cybertron. And as a quick aside, we see this image from issue 1 again, and since I got a comment asking me to go over who's in this image, well, let's give it a shot. I can mostly just make out the blue and white Guardian and some Tetrajets that seem like they could be Sunstorm and Acid Storm. This kind of looks like it could be an Insecticon. I'm leaning towards Kickback because it looks like he's got wings, but I don't know for sure. Not a lot of distinct features to go off of, and I think you can say that for the rest of these characters, like this red jet. I don't know, it could be Fireflight, it could be Powerglide, it could be neither. There's really just not enough to go off of, and unfortunately, I'm at a loss for who this dude with the jetpack could be. I like his look though, so if you have any ideas, let me know. But the big takeaway here is that Globulus is sending another agent after Cobra Commander, which makes me wonder if we're going to see Serpentor in the Energon Universe sooner rather than later, which could be very cool if they handle him as well as they've handled Cobra Commander. But this sequence is something of a 1-2 punch as we learn that Pythona is taking to this cool looking ship creature thing plucked straight out of the animated movie to outer space towards Cybertron to learn more about the planet. You see, Cobra-la wants to wage war against Cybertron due to it being made out of metal, making it blasphemous and profane to their organic society. And that is a tantalizing prospect. I cannot wait to see how that shakes out. Overall, wow. What a ride this was. To be honest, I'm bummed that it's over, but I'm extremely happy with what we got. I'm going to keep an open mind for Wave 2 of the G.I. Joe miniseries, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't hoping to see Williamson return to writing duties for G.I. Joe again in the future, as I think he captured a perfect blend of the original animated series and a new take with some modern and more mature tweaks and touches. But his crowning achievement so far is fleshing out one of the most compelling and fascinating characters of the entire continuity with the Commander. This series was awesome. This was a big success as far as I'm concerned. Really, really impressed and happy with how this turned out, and I'm looking forward to going back and rereading the whole thing. But that's it from me. Let me know what you thought of this issue in the comments. Like, subscribe, and all of that. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.